the talents that are represented with the county for the public, and that we can continue to serve them in an honorable way. As we approach the holidays, we want to remember that it's time for family and friends, and that we can pick those that are less fortunate, that we can do for them as well. We pray that you'll watch over and care for us as we leave this place today and forgive us our sins.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lance, would you do the roll call?
Commissioner Pitts.
Yes.
Commissioner Toller.
Here.
Commissioner Foster.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Gould.
Having the quorum, I'll call the meeting to order. Kent, would you shut that door? Yes, sure. First thing on the agenda, approval of minutes from our regular meeting held November the 8th. Has everyone had a chance to look those over? Any corrections or changes? I said.
Commissioner Pitts.
Yes.
Commissioner Toller.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Commissioner Gould.
Moving along, public comments. Anyone? Okay, committee reports. Anyone?
Had a Shawnee Development meeting this week. Did a reorganization of the board. Basically, well, everybody was reelected and that was already serving. Just say that right now they're taking live heat applications for families that have children under 5. Dean Williams is here from the director this morning. Last week we had the food truck to come in at 2 different times, 2 different days, and we had a lot of good help to load the truck. So, and that's all very much appreciated.
Good to hear. Anybody else? I would say, or I will say, myself and the Highway Department union have signed a tentative agreement under contract. So that wraps up all of the union negotiations for now. Everybody's signed, happy, and moving along. So we're ready to start over next year. Building permits.
None.
Okay. Old business, image trend software contract, where are we?
We'll probably table it for a few more weeks. We got to get everybody in the same room to work on the academy issue.
Okay. They work and leave it on the old business. Budget discussion. Update everybody.
Yes, so moving right along in the budget, basically down to the very end of trying to get numbers together for you guys so you can make some decisions on new capital requests. The predicament we're having for next year is just that we have our jail bill on the rise. We have our court fees and fines declining. So with the fines and fees going down and our court and our jail bill going up, it kind of putting a burden on where we're at right now. We're having to put more money in the budget to cover the jail bill with hopes that, you know, once things settle down upstairs and that we can actually get the jail bill back down and under control and use that money for other stuff. So I got all that calculated. There are two pieces I've figured out. One is how much we'll receive for the cannabis tax. I've tried to reach out to Thrive on multiple occasions, phone calls, emails, just trying to get a ballpark figure of what they expect their recreational marijuana sales to be. I did unfortunately find out from the Department of Revenue, I had inquired whether that tax would be sent to us separately or combined with our sales tax, because I wanted to be able to see how much revenue we're bringing in from that. I did find out it will be sent separately, so that's good news. However, he made me aware that during the veto session, they made some changes to the law that now only allows us to start collecting the tax in July instead of January. So where we thought we'd have a whole year's worth of this revenue, now it looks like we're going to have about half a year. So that was some unfortunate news. And then the other piece of information that I don't have in the budget right now is any additional revenue from dispatch. So still trying to work all that out. So I'm hopeful that with those two things going in, that we'll be able to cover all the obligations that we've already agreed to for capital, and that there will be some money for new capital request. My suggestion would be that we put the money in the capital fund, but put a contingency line in there, and we hold off on new purchases until mid-year, where we can see how are the fines coming in, how is the jail bill coming in, what about the cannabis tax, stuff like that. And then once we have a better idea, we'll know that we can pull the trigger on making those larger purchases. So,
Sounds good. I think we're discussing, continuing this meeting next Tuesday,
yes.
to do some more work on the budget and meet with some people. So, but we'll do that. Thank you, appreciate it. I know you're doing a lot of after-hour work on this.
All right.
It'll all work out. State doesn't change something else on us. New business, approved payment of bills. Everybody had a chance to look at the bill list. Any questions or comments? I get a motion to pay our bills.
I'll second.
Commissioner Pitts,
Yes.
Commissioner Toller,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gould.
Next on the agenda, 714 Workforce Investment Board Incorporated, Pamela Barbie, is going to present to us. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning.
Yes.
I'll be very brief. Looks like you have a full agenda. Like I said, I'm from the Southern 14, and we administer the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act grant, as well as the trade grants for the 14 southernmost counties, Union being one of them. And I'm just making my way around so that the commissioner, since you're ultimately responsible for it, and I know that you get things from my office occasionally that ask you to sign. So I just wanted so you could put a name to a face and tell you just a little bit. I have some information for each of you. Just so you can put a name to a face. So when we ask you something, you know who's asking and why. Just a little background, the WIOA, what it's called, is the overarching goal of it is to put people back to unsubsidized, sustainable employment as quickly as they can so they can get on with their lives. And we do that primarily through traditional classroom training, but we also have some paid work-based learning as well. My board administers the grant. We don't actually provide the services. We do contract with Shawnee Development, which FID is here with me. And we serve people 16, clear up, there's not an upper age limit. We do youth, adults, dislocated worker, which a dislocated worker is someone who loses their job at no fault of their own. Adult and youth do have a income guideline, but it's similar to that of food stamps. So everything I'm telling you there is in the packet. So again, my main goal today was I just wanted so you guys could put a name to a face. So anybody, when we ask you something, you kind of, oh yeah, I remember that. Also, I wanted to call your attention, DCEO, which is the Department of Employment and Commerce, I'm trying not to say acronyms, is putting on a Opportunity Zone and Tourism meeting at Karnak on December 3rd. So I'm just going to leave these. So if anybody, they're having the heads of those two departments come down, and it's going to be at Karnak at Shawnee Development's boardroom. So I'm kind of excited, not so much about the opportunity zones, but I think I think as a region, we maybe miss the mark on tourism sometimes, especially in tiny towns like mine, just because no one knows how to access those. Those are all free and no one knows how to access those services. So we'd ask them to come down and maybe tell us how to do that. So, thank you for your time. My card's in there. If you ever have a question, please let me know.
One quick question.
Sure.
Refresh my memory. Do each of the 14 counties have someone on this board?
Yes, they do. Yes. There are two businesses from each county on our board.
Okay.
I believe at this moment we have an empty seat in Union County.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That was the one that Bill Jackson used to.
Correct, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Bill and Pat Jackson were
Right.
both on our board.
Right,
Yes,
right.
yes. Yeah, and we would love to, my goal is always to have all my seats filled, and that's kind of hard sometimes. So yes, to be a board member, it just has to be a business person from your county. They have to either live or work in your county, and they have to have policy-making authority, so they don't have to own a business, but, so please send us somebody.
Okay, we'll get on that.
When are your meetings?
We meet quarterly, the second Tuesday of the month, so our next meeting would be December 12th
Second Tuesday, what time?
at 7, and it's at Harrisburg at SIC.
7 PM? Harrisburg?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, we appreciate it. Next on the agenda, Wolf Lake vacant property cleanup, Eric Landon. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well,
As you said, I'm Eric Landon. I'm here today representing the town of Wolf Lake. I have Beth McMahon here with me today. What we're here today to do is discuss the garbage and debris ordinance. To give you a little bit of background on what we've done so far, a group of us got together and decided that the town, the condition that it's in, is not something that we were willing to tolerate in the future. It's not something we wanted our kids to see down the road. You know, what kind of place is going to be here for them if it continues as it is today. So we came to a county board meeting. Mr. Miller, he advised us the best course of action would be to fill out ordinance violation forms. And we did that. We filled out 9 of them, 4 rounds of 9, and turned them into our sheriff's office. And Scott has been absolutely wonderful about following up on them, him and his deputies. They've done a great job, and we've seen some response from them. Some of the vehicles have been removed, some of the yards have been mowed, and we want you to know we appreciate everything you did and have done and are doing. Also, too, we've been in and out of Lance Meisheimer, your office, and spoken to you and your staff, and you've been great to deal with. Want you to know we appreciate that. We've been in and out of the treasurer's office and worked with her, and she's been great to deal with too. So you guys all be proud of your office staff and everybody here. The other thing we did, we formed a not-for-profit organization and had a fundraiser and have raised money and are doing our best to buy up what properties we can and clean them up. So far, we haven't got anything bought yet. We have two sales that fell through, and then we had 1 pending. We're waiting on the paperwork to get back from California actually on it. And we turned in 2 bids yesterday for your auction that's coming up now. And with any luck, we'll have 2 properties next week, maybe. So in saying that, there's the other reason why we're here is to bring up one particular property, and that's on 45 Clark Street in Wolf Lake. It's owned by Cecil and Rebecca Haynes. This property, D.G. Wilson's old place we were discussing earlier. This property hasn't been maintained all year, and actually probably the last couple of years. There's piles of trash in the yard, literally bags of trash. The yard's unkept, the tree limbs are hanging out in the street. And according to the county's garbage and debris ordinance, Article 2, it is unlawful for this to happen. And after 5 days of the property owner being notified, the county has the authority to abate the nuisance, abate the property and clean it up. And so that's why we're here today, to see if the county would be willing to help out the community and clean it up. We're trying to do everything we can as private citizens, you know, to buy the property. Scott's done everything he can do as far as following up with the violations. And so we're looking for the county to see what they can do on this.
Where are we on this?
This one, Mr. Haynes is currently incarcerated.
He was released yesterday.
Was he
Yeah,
released
he
yesterday?
put out yesterday.
Okay, so, and he's been issued a citation for it, it's in Daniel's office, so that's kind of a pending case right now. So that this one, and I think this property's abandoned now, there's nobody living there at all.
I don't know.
I drove by there yesterday and the doors are all open, the windows are, there's nobody in the house. So, and basically what's happened is I think other people are using it as a dumping ground, just come by and dump the trash there. So, I mean, it's an awful place. It really needs to be cleaned up. So outside of enforcing that with Mr. Haynes, I mean, he's actually the property owner, he's the one. And so I think you all are planning to reach out to him maybe to see, because at one point, his wife was willing to turn the property over to you guys, so I don't know where that's at. I haven't.
I spoke to her yesterday, and she, we're limited on the money we have, depending on whether or not these bids go through here. The money I offered her was nothing she thought she was interested in. She said she would call me back today. So, as far as, buying it, we're love to do that, clean it up ourselves. If we can afford it, if they won't sell it to us, we're kind of at the point where do we go from here? It's more or less, it's like a public health hazard almost. There's mice and rat infestations, and it's just a mess, so.
So where are we?
Those will be filed first thing next week. They've been on Ann's desk, so unfortunately, I just didn't realize they were in there. I've talked with Scott about some of these properties in the last couple of weeks. Really, the issue in the court system is getting, nothing against any judge or prior judge or anything, is honestly getting the judge to take it seriously. I've literally had, one of the prior judges look at me and just, Dan, what do you want me to do to him? So I think we've got some other judges in there now that I'd be able to kind of push these and they'd understand and they're procedural and follow what needs to be done. So under the threat of a, $1,000 fine, which I believe is what we can do under that ordinance. I mean, we've had some success my first when I was an ASA here, but it's really more just a threat of fine. So knowing Cecil, I don't know if he's really gonna care, quite honestly, but we could definitely try. I keep dragging him to court once a month to annoy him on my end, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, if it's in the condition the sheriff told me it's in, we can try and do something about it. So,
Well, is it a situation where he and his wife both are owners of the property, or are they divorced?
that I'm not sure of. I didn't know. Is Rebecca on?
We issued the citation to Rebecca, I believe, because he was already incarcerated. I don't know if he's on that complaint or not. I don't remember. So that's something I'll have to check on. But, I mean, they're both responsible for it.
Correct. So they can both be cited as an ordinance because they both live there. But as it goes to what else we can do, I told Scott last night on the phone, I'd look into it. Years ago, I looked into it. There's a way the county can put a lien on the property. There's certain things that the county might be able to do to just push a little harder. So, yeah, I can definitely look into all that and update you guys at the next meeting. And then get those tickets filed. So,
The only issue with the lien process is though, until they want to sell it, I mean, nothing's gonna happen.
Right.
So.
And you talked to her,
I talked to her yesterday. She said she would call me back today with the price.
and I didn't hear what you said as far as what you offered her.
I just threw out, I said, you've got, it shows right here, she's got $383 worth of back taxes we'd have to pay to get the deed. I offered AOA, I'll sell it for that. That's what she said. She said it's worth far more than that. And you have to understand the caliber of people we're dealing with.
Sure,
Is she just 1 year behind on taxes, or?
She, 2017, according to this, 2017's taxes were bought by Bobby Farmer in Belleville. The rest of the years they paid, I'm saying.
Okay. That's, and went to tax sale, just that 1 year?
Yeah, just that 1 year. The certificate expires on March 13th of 2021, so we've got a couple of years of this before Bobby Farmer can take control.
So you said March 13th of 2020?
It's at 2021.
2021, and that's 17 payable, 18 taxes? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Tax year 2017, yes.
Is that,
That's his extension date, that's when he's filed for the extension.
so in 2021, he can take ownership of the property?
That's not paid,
Yeah.
yes. But he'll have to go through the whole process, file for deed.
Well,
Right.
I think, I mean, you guys pitch in whatever you want here. I'm gonna say what I think about this. I mean, I wanna see this continued and done. But I would ask you to give us a chance now that I know more about it. We know where we are upstairs and downstairs on this situation, to see where we can actually go here before the county makes a physical move as far as doing something to the property ourselves, which I'm assuming from the ordinance, we can go and clean it, give them a bill.
According to the ordinance.
So we'd be just like you, not getting any money.
Right.
But let us, if you don't mind, go ahead and check on some things on this from where we're at now that I understand on it with these people.
Okay.
And, you know, maybe you'll get some good news back today if she calls you back. I very much doubt that. So anyway, and then we will, I'll get back with you and we'll see where we want to go with this. If that's agreeable.
No, that'd be fine.
I mean, I just don't feel like today we should be saying we're gonna do something until we get through the process that it's in now. If then we can move it along with a different judge up there, get something, and again, that may not prove to do anything either, but give me a chance to, or the board a chance to rectify this before we make it.
Okay.
Is that fair enough?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Has anybody got any questions or comments on this?
I do for Daniel. So if that's a fine against the person, not the property,
Yes.
okay, so you're trying to keep it away from being a lien on the property is what.
To the court, it's just a fine.
Okay.
A maximum $1,000 fine. I could never get Judge Cadmus to do more than about $50 or $75 on them. And that would be, hey, you have 90 days, we're gonna fine you 1,000, and the judge would just give them 90 days a few times. I mean, then we'd be happy you're in. And
Sure.
if they didn't show up, he'd just ex parte him for $75 or $50. So, I mean, I want to be able to threaten the maximum, so.
That's the only way we're gonna get anywhere with this properties is fine people the maximum amount.
Under the ordinance, if we exercise the right to go clean it up, can we not charge them our expenses?
Well, that's what I was
That's
just
what
getting.
goes,
against the
that
property.
goes on the lien though, that's.
That's okay, that's what I'm saying, so if we do exercise that right,
Yeah, that's
we
what
can
I said.
recover.
Big enough bill on it, they got bill.
Well, that's what I
Well-
want to ask. So if we clean it up and we put a lien on the property, and Lee, this is a question for you too, and we have a tax sale buyer that can own the property in 2021 if the taxes aren't redeemed. Once we put a lien on the property, he have to pay this lien?
No, it'd be a prior lien, but at that.
No, it
point-
wouldn't be prior. It would be after he owned, after he bought the taxes.
Yeah, but I think the tax liens become prior, Daniel, it's a prior lien to anything. It becomes prior to mortgages and everything else, mortgage holders have to.
We'd be
pay.
a subordinate lien.
Yeah.
So,
So he could take the property and then the lien would just go away.
when we look into it, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
as they were saying, I think that's correct.
I know for the
But
trustees.
we would have the right to buy that lien of his out to protect our interests, which may protect his because, you know, at least we get the property cleaned up.
Yeah, and that's in all of this, you know, we're all losing money on this deal. All of us are. We've donated our own personal money, you know, we put in the pot, put together this fundraiser and, you know, it'd be the taxpayer as a whole take a hit here, but, you know, as a taxpayer, I'd love to see my taxes taken. I really would.
And Mr. Farmer would probably file a 7-air regarding that property, stating that it was not livable, inhabitable, and the judge grants that, then he would get the money back, and the taxes go back and forth.
Right, so if the condition of the property
Yeah.
sounds like it's very bad, most likely this tax sale buyer is gonna get out of it because they're not gonna want to own the property.
Right.
So, and any lien you put on it is you're never gonna get back.
What do you think it costs to tear that old house down?
I have no idea.
We're looking at $2,000-3,000 anyways, right?
Yeah, I mean, probably, I wasn't necessarily expecting it to be completely tore down, maybe just clean the trash yard up, you know.
It needs to be tore
Yeah,
down.
It does need to be
It's
tore
like, it's
down.
that house up. It's beyond, it's beyond.
I know at City of Jonesboro, we had our guys tear, we had a couple properties we did that, we tore down, and it was just out our manpower.
What about the disposal part though? Is that rather expensive? Because you're gonna have to go
Yeah,
and
just to get,
approve.
yeah, you
Shingles
gotta-
are separate.
shingles are separate, but the dumpster's not $100.
Okay, so you can separate that out.
I mean, we did that a couple times at Jonesboro, we tore stuff down and had our own guys do it, save labor. That's the biggest cost of it.
Right.
So I would say the highway department, without speaking for them, would have the equipment, I'm sure, to do it. So,
If you need help on labor, we can help with that. I mean, we just don't have the authority to do it ourselves.
Well,
You guys-
Well, until the deed changes hands, you really can't do anything like that. Well, you could tear it down, I take that back. Because you could file a public nuisance and go that route. Because that's how we did it through the city, but I mean, there's two different ways.
Well, we'll look at this and see what the quickest and best way is. I do appreciate, I know the board does and the community does, what you guys are trying to do. I think that can be done in a lot of communities in Union County. I think the city of Anna is working on some of that as we speak also. But again, appreciate what you're doing, and we will get back with you and try to move this along.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for your time.
Real quick, can I ask, how many properties in Wolf Lake are you talking? I got a feeling you got a list.
There's about 3 for sure that need immediate attention, because there's another one that's at let me see here, 215 that's burnt down, same situation. It's laying on the ground and people's throwing trash on top of it, and then I think you've acquired the property out on Route 3 on Smith Road, right?
We're in the process, yeah. That's the
Okay.
paperwork we're waiting
That
on.
one was a burnt home as well, so it's in the same condition, it needs to come down. So there's 3 of those for sure that need to actually come down and be cleaned up. I mean, just bulldoze down or whatever, hauled off. The other homes, we've had some compliance with a couple of these other ones, and I think there's one more that we're working on. I think we'll get compliance on, so I think we'll have some of these in order, but those are the main 3 that really need immediate attention.
All right, moving along. Resolution setting the salary of the county engineer. This is something that we do every year through the state, through the county. I just need a motion, or I'll make a motion, that, we approve and authorize the dollar amount, stated in the resolution, for the county engineer salary.
Second.
Commissioner Pitts?
Yeah.
Commissioner Toller? Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Gould?
I might add to that, everybody's aware of it, the state pays part of his salary, as we do, out of motor fuel tax and so forth, so, like I said, that's just a housekeeping thing we do every year. Next on the agenda, Werewolf Lake Fire Protection District appointment. Have a letter from, Secretary of Treasurer, requesting that we appoint Randy Landon to finish a term that Richard Green has resigned from. The term will expire in September of 2020. Having this given to us, I'll make a motion that we appoint Mr. Landon to finish out this term until September 2020 for the Werewolf Lake Fire Protection District.
Commissioner Pitts?
Yes.
Commissioner Toller? Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Gould?
We have nothing for executive session today, right? We will continue this meeting to Tuesday of next week at 9 o'clock in the morning. for budget discussions, so forth. So good with that?
Motion.
Do we have to do a motion for that?
Motion to continue.
I'll make a motion to continue till 9 AM on Tuesday.
I'll second.
I can't ever remember.
Commissioner Pitts,
Yes.
Commissioner Toller,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Gould.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it.